pick up your phone. You don't even know why. You're not expecting a call. You're not checking the time. You're not opening anything in particular. You're just reaching. Again, it's been 2 minutes since the last time. You swipe through nothing, scroll past everything. You don't even care what you're seeing. You just don't want to stop seeing. Because when the screen goes black, something heavier creeps in. And Blaise Pascal knew this. Back in 1650, almost 400 years ago, he said it plainly. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room, alone. Let that land. Not war, not famine, not politics, but our inability to just sit, alone, with ourselves. Pascal saw something most people miss. We don't crave entertainment, we crave escape. We don't love noise, we fear silence. Because silence introduces us to someone we've spent our whole lives avoiding, ourselves. This isn't about phones. This is older than screens, older than television, older than radio. Pascal lived in 1623 to 1662. And even then, he saw the same restless energy. He wrote that humans invent distractions, sports, hunting, politics, not for their own sake, but so we don't have to face the terror of stillness. We're not bored, we're haunted. You don't open Instagram because you're curious. You open it because for a moment, a flash, you don't have to feel like you're wasting your life. For a second, you can pretend you're part of something, doing something, escaping something. But what is it you're escaping? Pascal would say, your condition, your weakness, your mortality, your vanity, your failure to know what this life is for. And he would say it not with cruelty, but with clarity. He called distraction divertissement, diversion, and argued that it was humanity's primary strategy to cope with despair. He knew he couldn't sit still because stillness meant reckoning, and reckoning meant pain. Ask yourself, when was the last time you sat in a quiet room, no music, no podcast, no YouTube, and just felt your thoughts, felt your memories, felt your fears? You don't want to, because you already know what's there. The memory of someone you lost, the regret of something you never tried, the fear that your life is not turning out the way you hoped. So you reach for the phone, you open the app, you disappear. But the terror doesn't leave, it waits, it festers. Pascal wasn't trying to shame you, he was trying to save you. He believed that only through stillness can we begin to confront what really matters. Only when we sit with the truth, the terrifying, sacred, uncomfortable truth, can we begin to live honestly. And that's why you feel sick after binging for hours. That's why you feel hollow after endless scrolling. Because distraction doesn't feed you, it erases you. You're not addicted to content. You're addicted to not being present. You're addicted to forgetting. But what if you remembered? What if you stopped running? What if you stayed in the room? Because Pascal's challenge still echoes in the 21st century louder than ever. Can you sit quietly in a room, alone? Or will you keep chasing noise because you fear your own voice? So let's say you try it. You turn off the notifications. You sit on the edge of your bed. No music, no buzzing, no blinking lights. You just breathe. At first, it's fine. Then the thoughts begin. You think about the messages you didn't reply to. You remember the moment you embarrassed yourself in front of people who mattered. You start wondering if you've wasted your 20s, if you're doing what you're meant to do, if there even is such a thing as meant to. The silence becomes heavy, like a fog that carries everything you've been avoiding. This is what Blaise Pascal meant. He believed that in stillness, the truth reveals itself. Not just ideas, not theories, but the brutal, unpolished reality of your soul. He saw human life as caught between two poles, our insignificance and our desire for meaning. And between those poles, he said, we invent distraction because we fear the abyss. He wrote, "Man is but a reed, the most feeble thing in nature, but he is a thinking reed. And with thought comes pain. We think and we fear. We think and we grieve. We think and we realize how little we control." That's why the silence cuts so deep. It's not quiet, it's confrontation. It forces you to see yourself without the filters, to feel your fears without buffering. You feel the shame of not being the person you promised yourself you'd become. You feel the envy of others who seem further ahead. You feel the anger toward people who never apologized. You feel the weight of being alive and not knowing why. This isn't melodrama. This is the human condition. And philosophers across time have echoed it. Kierkegaard, writing in 1849, said, "The most common form of despair is not being who you are." Nietzsche, in 1882, wrote, "When we are tired, we are attacked by ideas we conquered long ago." Stillness doesn't create demons. It uncovers them. It puts a spotlight on your unhealed wounds. It asks questions you don't want to answer. Are you proud of how you live? Do you love anyone deeply? Have you grown or just aged? Do you know what matters to you, or are you just mimicking others? These questions terrify because they can't be Googled. They can't be outsourced. They must be lived. This is why so many people panic when they try to meditate. Not because their minds wander, that's natural, but because their minds reveal. They open the door to the very emotions we've spent years avoiding. And it turns out the fear isn't of the silence. The fear is that the silence might be right, that you really are wasting time, that you really are playing small, that you really do crave more than you allow yourself to pursue. Psychologists call this existential anxiety. It's what arises when we recognize the vastness of life, the shortness of time, and the burden of freedom. It's not a disorder. It's a mirror. Pascal wasn't a pessimist. He was a diagnostician. He saw that when we numb ourselves from pain, we also numb ourselves from meaning. And so he warned, beware the diversions that flatter your boredom, they might be stealing your soul. When you constantly stimulate yourself to avoid discomfort, you weaken the very muscle you need to endure truth. You stay soft, fragile, dependent. So here's the confrontation. What is stillness trying to show you? What memory won't stop surfacing? What desire are you pretending you don't have? What lie are you rehearsing every day just to function? You think distraction is relief, but it's a cage. A shiny, pixelated cage that numbs you into passivity. And Pascal's philosophy isn't about guilt, it's about awakening. He believed that confronting discomfort was the beginning of spiritual honesty. And that kind of honesty, the raw, trembling kind, is the only path to freedom. So sit, feel the panic, let the thoughts come. Let them rip through the armor. Because every second you survive in silence, you become more real. You've probably already felt it. That reflex, that resistance. The part of you that says, "This isn't for me." The part that whispers, "Maybe stillness just makes things worse." And you're not wrong to feel that. You're human. And humans, as Pascal said, are built to flee pain. The sole cause of man's unhappiness is that he does not know how to stay quietly in his room. But why does staying quietly hurt so much? Because the room isn't empty. It's filled with your ghosts, your lost time, your broken promises, your unlived dreams. And when we sit with them, we have to admit things. That we wasted whole years performing for approval. That we broke our own hearts pretending to be easy to love. That we said yes when we meant no, just to avoid the tension. Pascal terrifies us not because he was judgmental, but because he was right. He looked directly into the void of the human condition and refused to blink. And in 1670, when his Pensées were posthumously published, the world wasn't ready. Most people today still aren't. Because what he offered wasn't comfort, it was clarity. He saw that we fill our days with tasks, jokes, updates, gossip, ambition, not because they fulfill us, but because they prevent us from asking, "What am I even doing here?" Pascal called it diversion, but today we call it content. We call it hustle. We call it self-care. But deep down, it's the same thing, anesthesia, for the deeper ache of meaninglessness. We resist Pascal because we want to believe there's a shortcut, a way to feel good without looking inward. But there isn't. Every pleasure that bypasses your soul will eventually feel hollow. And so, distraction becomes the drug. Every hit keeps you from crashing into yourself. Ask yourself, how many times have you reached for your phone not because you needed it, but because you couldn't bear the stillness? How often do you play music, not to enjoy it, but to drown out the silence? How often do you stay busy just so you don't have to ask hard questions? You see, Pascal believed that we suffer not because we are weak, but because we are scared of our own depth. We're scared that if we dig too deep, we'll find nothing. Or worse, we'll find truth. And the truth will demand change. It will demand we stop performing. Stop pretending. Stop numbing. This is why people criticize Pascal. They say he was too intense, too religious, too dark. They dismiss him because he threatens their distractions. But if you can look past the discomfort, you'll find something rare. A man who didn't lie to himself. A man who begged us to sit in the dark, not because it's pleasant, but because it's necessary. In his famous wager, Pascal argued that living as though God exists is the safer bet, not because it guarantees heaven, but because it gives life a moral and spiritual framework, a way to center of gravity. He wasn't saying believe blindly. He was saying don't live weightlessly. Because distraction makes you drift. You become whatever is trending. You want whatever gets applause. You chase whatever looks like purpose. And all the while, your soul is starving. It's starving for silence, for authenticity, for the sacred. Pascal's terror wasn't silence. It was a life spent avoiding silence. So yes, stillness will hurt. It will feel like withdrawal, like falling, like breaking. But beneath the collapse is clarity, and beyond the pain is presence. You don't need another hit of stimulation. You need a moment of truth. Pascal's philosophy is not for comfort. It's for courage. The courage to sit with what hurts and walk out the other side, still breathing, still broken, but finally real. So what now? What do you do when you realize distraction isn't just a habit, it's a hiding place? What do you do when the noise stops being entertainment and starts becoming exile? You reclaim stillness. You turn and face the thing you've spent years running from, yourself. This is what Blaise Pascal wanted for you. Not misery, not shame, not guilt, but sovereignty. He believed that if you could truly sit with yourself, you might begin to find a center, a weight, a direction, and it starts small. Turn the phone off for an hour. No music, no screens, just silence. Just breathe. Just the hum of your own mind. It will be ugly at first, like detox, like pulling out of a spin. Your hands will twitch. Your brain will reach for stimulation like a drowning man reaching for air. But stay with it, because in that discomfort is power, and in that power is presence. You will hear the things you've suppressed, the desire to create, the sadness you never processed, the truth you've avoided. You'll begin to notice how much of your life is automated, how many of your choices aren't really choices. They're defaults, reactions, escapes. But with stillness, you begin to choose again. You begin to listen to your own voice, not the algorithm. You begin to feel your own hunger, not just consume whatever is placed in front of you. You begin to return to your body, return to your values, return to the present. You realize you are not here to be a consumer. You are not here to be endlessly amused. You are here to grow, to wrestle, to make meaning, to suffer honestly, to build something sacred within and without. And that begins not in the climax, but in the quiet. So try, sit down, breathe deeply. Let the thoughts come. Don't judge them. Don't run. Say to them, I'm here, I'm listening. Because every moment you do this, you reclaim a piece of your mind, a piece of your time, a piece of your soul. Pascal said, we run heedlessly into the abyss after putting something in front of us to stop us seeing it. But now you remove the obstacle. You lift the screen. You open your eyes. This is the beginning of psychological sovereignty. When you stop needing noise to feel okay. When you stop using chaos to avoid clarity. When you stop letting strangers, trends, and algorithms dictate the rhythm of your life. And no, it won't make you invincible. You will still feel pain, still grieve, still doubt, but it will be your pain, your grief, your doubt. And that is the difference. Because borrowed emotion is a cage, but owned emotion is freedom. Pascal's warning, written in the 1650s, now becomes a roadmap for 2025. In an age where distraction is constant, stillness becomes revolutionary. In a world addicted to content, contemplation becomes rebellion. And maybe that's what you're being called to rebel, to detach, to go inward, not to disappear, but to remember what it feels like to be alive without stimulation, to feel wonder that isn't manufactured, to feel silence that isn't empty, but sacred. So here is your call. Cut the strings, withdraw instead of reacting, sit longer than is comfortable. Let the ache rise, let the tears come. Don't fight them. Let them baptize you into clarity. Because beneath the noise is not the end of you, it's the beginning. You must learn to sit. You must learn to listen. Because when you do, you will hear something you've forgotten. Not a podcast, not a ping, not a post, but your own voice, the one that was buried, the one that knows what matters, the one that will carry you forward, not as a puppet of the moment, but as the sovereign of your mind. That's what Pascal wanted for you. Not comfort, not ease, but truth. And through that truth, a life worth living.